The federal government officially shut down at midnight Tuesday, and Louisiana residents are bracing for the first signs of disruption. Roughly 750,000 federal workers nationwide are furloughed, meaning suspended or discharged from a job, including thousands in Louisiana. The last prolonged shutdown in 2018 into 2019 furloughed more than 6,000 Louisiana federal workers and left many without pay for over a month. That shutdown lasted 35 days. Now, how long this one lasts will determine the severity of its impacts. Among the most immediate effects is the freeze of the National Flood Insurance Program, which provides nearly all flood coverage in Louisiana and is required for federally backed mortgages in flood-prone areas. And joining us now to break down the shutdown further is our political analyst, Greg LaRose. Greg, thank you so much for being here. I want to start off with the impacts to food and family assistance. So SNAP benefits will continue for now, serving more than 800,000 Louisianans, but WIC nutrition assistance could face some delays. How crucial is that service?
That would likely, Colin, involve a shutdown that would span at least a month. I think probably a couple months before we would start seeing any impacts to SNAP or WIC. But yeah, if you're depending on that, it's reasonable that you might feel a little nervous right now because right now, at least, there's no end in sight.
So other areas that are impacted include disaster response, air travel, national parks, tourism, as well as the Coast Guard and ports. When you look at, so let's look at Social Security and Medicare. When you look at that, why should Louisianans be concerned about this aspect of the shutdown?
I don't think immediately. I think everything's going to tie to how long this lasts. You mentioned 35 days for the previous shutdown. That's, I think, a good target to consider if you are looking at anything that is related to government assistance. Now, you brought up the National Weather Service. You know, we've got a couple of tropical systems out in the Atlantic. And keep in mind, this was a workforce that was down 20% from the start of the year, just from the Trump administration pulling back on that aspect of the federal workforce. So you're already talking about an agency that's particularly thin-staffed right now, and in some instances you're going to be having federal employees required to work with no real indication of when their next paycheck's going to land.
And so going a little bit more on that healthcare side, you see a lot of concerns with that. Should residents really be concerned more now with this government shutdown, just kind of adding to that?
I don't think so. And I think we should take the opportunity to kind of correct something that House Speaker Mike Johnson said in Washington today. He alluded that veterans would stop receiving health care. That's false. Now, we won't get into why the speaker said that, whether it was just a misstatement or kind of trumping up the facts as they are. But right now, there's no anticipated interruption for anyone who relies on Medicaid, anyone that relies on VA benefits, and that includes their retirement payments. So right now, insofar as healthcare, nothing in the immediate future. Again, this will all go to how long this shutdown lasts.
And it seems that both chambers of Congress are still at odds with keeping the government open. What will it take for the government to open back up?
It looks like the sticking point is whether Senate Republicans, ultimately House Republicans as well, will agree to extend the tax credits that are part of the Affordable Care Act. In Louisiana, that applies to close to 300,000 people who are on Obamacare and rely on those tax credits for that coverage. If there can be some middle ground there, that's one thing. To say that Congress reaches a deal, of course, all bets are off because the president unilaterally could refuse to accept that and act on his own to continue the downsizing of federal government.
All right, political analyst Greg LaRose, we appreciate your time.